Good morning and good afternoon. This is Dr. Shiva from GWFM. It truly gives us a great pleasure and privilege to have GWFM and Livehire event. We're going to talk about a very interesting topic, talent acquisition in the age of great resignation. Happening topic, a lot of forums have been discussing, but we're going to discuss something very interactive. We have got a good number of questions already lined up by the audience. And this is going to be interactive panel discussion with the thought leaders who have spent more than 2 decades of experience in talent hiring, especially knowledge hiring and also skill hiring. This gives us a great opportunity for us to associate with Livehire. Livehire and GWFM brings a lot of value to the talent acquisitions industry in the country and worldwide, that we would want to help industry solving the business problems and talent hiring problems and talent problem. This gives us a great opportunity for all of us to have that. We have a galaxy of speakers today: Puneet, Dev, Savita, Aditya, Kapil, and Vishwa. What a fantastic team would talk about talent acquisition. I think we're going to talk about, a lot of good trends and happenings, and a lot of questions will be clarified. We're going to make this very interactive. So GWFM has been in existence since last 8 years. We recently celebrated International WFM Professionals Day. You may wonder that, what is this International WFM Professionals Day? In fact, we dedicated this when we started this forum. We call this as International WFM Professionals Day. We had a combination of HR, TA, and then workforce management fraternity put together, 20,000 people across the world. We are present in APAC, ANZ, EMEA, Latin America, and North America. We are blessed with great advisory and great core teams in multiple regions across the world. GWFM is known for talking about the trends and setting the context in the industry. Thank you so much for all the distinguished speakers for taking your time during the weekend to share your thoughts and insights. I'm sure that this event and the discussion is going to create a lot of value to the people, a lot of value to the industry. With this, I welcome all of you. I invite GWFM co-founder Partha to take the session forward. Thank you all once again, and great audience. Welcome you too. Looking forward to having very fruitful conversation. Please feel free to ask questions. We have the chat box here. You can ask any questions. Start putting it now. With this, hashtag GWFM and hashtag Livewire, hashtag talent acquisition, and hashtag great resignation. Thank you. Over to you, Partha.
Greetings from GWFM, and welcome to Livehire. First time GWFM is collaborating with Livehire. Livehire is a candidate-centric platform that empowers the flow of the world's talent. A LinkedIn report revealed that 82% of the Indian workforce would be looking for a change in response to the great reshuffle. A reshuffle would suggest candidates moving to and from the roles currently available. But a further shift is happening, where the job market is now being candidate-led, specifically based on their experiences. Talent 500 reported that nearly 9 out of 10 people would reconsider working for a company if they're not engaged enough during the hiring process. Now, for us, it's an honor to have all of you as part of this interactive panel and thought leadership discussion with a galaxy of industry speakers who would share their practical insights and experiences on the global trending theme of talent acquisition in the age of great resignation. To begin with, we welcome Puneet Mudgal for the keynote speaker role. Puneet comes with over 2 decades of experience and currently is the Chief Research Officer of Octane Research. He worked with top brands like Microsoft, Sable, and Oracle. In Octane Research, he enables corporates to market the products and services through digital channels like social media, email marketing, search mobile, SMS, and the web. Welcome to you, Puneet. The slot is all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva, and thank you, Partho. Namaste to all of you who are dialing in live, and a warm hello to also folks who will be watching this perhaps later on a rerun. Reruns are not as great as live, but we'll try to make it worthwhile. So when you watch it offline, you'll still see some value. My name is Puneet Modgil, and I'm coming straight to you from Gurgaon. And the topic today we have, which is about talent acquisition in the age of great resignation. I plan to take this up into two formats, two boxes. I'll be using some slides. And in that context, I'll take you through first what we see on the surface. And more importantly, what's happening beneath the surface. My background is that of a digital person. And I am currently in the role of an analyst. So we are an analyst team which tracks digital and digital disruption and how that's manifesting in the changes you're seeing. So what's the symptom you're seeing? And the great resignation, the great refresh, the great reshuffle, whatever you call it, these are manifestations of something fundamentally more basic, which is changing around us. This is my first such session in the month of July. And this is my first ever session with talent acquisition professionals, though I have addressed the HR community. So I'm looking forward to this discussion. And before I start sharing my slides and take you through my first part, which is what's happening. And the second one is, how could you address it from a very different perspective? We have 6+ industry speakers who will deliberate on this in more detail. But as a digital person, how do I see some of the best practices around me? But before I start on the slides, and I'll take you through what my framework is for you, I thought it'll be good for you to know that you can continue this conversation while I'm presenting. I'll go through my chat box and look at your questions a little later, and also leave my email ID just in case you want to follow up with any question you may have if you watch this offline. With that, let me just take a brief moment and take you through a few data points. A quick check, you're able to see my slides? Yeah, all right, thank you. So digitally disrupted, and I've highlighted the TA word in this just to be trendy. So what are the new opportunities in digitally transformed talent acquisition? And as I said, I'm from Octane Research. So I will be sharing with you a different perspective of how we see it from a different perspective, from the outside in. This is a funny picture. If you've been to Barsane Holi, this is the colorful picture you can get for your DP. My name is Puneet Modgil, and these are the places I've stayed in. On the right-hand side, you'll see some of the brands that I have been associated with in roles. At Octane Research, we started in 2010, beginning of the Internet 2.0 in India. And we've been tracking how consumers, CXOs, companies are adapting to digital. Primary focus has been on digital marketing, but of late we are venturing into other areas because digital disruption is going beyond just the consumer brand connect. So let me step back now and let's address this question. But why now? What happened? Is this something new? You've dealt with attrition, you've dealt with talent acquisition, you've dealt with high staff turnover. What's changed now? And if you look at what's happening around us, in the month of June, there were maybe more than 25, 30 articles I read. At least some of them I read in detail. And about half a dozen to a dozen mentions of this particular phenomenon in Indian media, including some of the surveys, industry discussions that Partho was mentioning. So clearly meaning and purpose are in focus. Thanks to COVID, people have had a self-discovery reset button. And this is not just for youngsters, young professionals, but also mid-career professionals who are saying, what am I doing with my life and where do I need to go? So there's a new search, and that's creating new questions around us. If you look at Gen Z or millennials, as we call them in India, they're now entering the workforce. They're very different, driven very differently. So FOMO is real, fear of missing out. If I choose one profession, should I stay around? So they are in this mad rush to seek as many experiences before they settle into something more meaningful. So these are the trends we see around us when you look at what's happening. If you look at globally also, and somewhat in India, there's a rise of the passion economy, very different from the gig economy, but we also have the gig workforce. So a lot of folks are saying, look, why do I need to work in a full-time job when I can get better realization for my time and money in doing what I want to do on my own terms? So briefly, these are the symptoms we're all familiar with. These are the so-called causes we've been articulated. But I'd like to take you through something more deeper that's happening around us. And if you allow me, there's a disruption happening around us, and COVID has just expedited all of this, as if somebody compressed all of this. And now we are on the rebound stage, the recoil stage. And that's digital transformation. It's happened to HR also, it's happened to talent acquisition also. It's led by devices, data, and digital. And if you, for a moment, look at each one of those attributes in isolation and what they mean, perhaps we as a TA community will be much better to enable success for us, harnessing the power of digital and not getting disrupted by it. Digital has attributes of speed of light. It is global. It does subvert hierarchy, which is what our organizations have been built around historically. Data compounds more problems. Data creates moment of truth. How do you have real-time reports? How do you have real-time access to insights? And devices, now everybody is a publisher. Everybody has access to tools which can take them trending. You're one step away from your brand being trending on media. It could be LinkedIn, it could be Twitter, it could be any one of those platforms. Everybody can go live. So if you look at all three coming together, digital, data, devices, especially more in India in the last 5 to 7 years, we are in a perfect storm. Things are happening at a very different pace around us. And if you add to this the COVID mix, what changes we would have seen in 10 years, for example, remote working, remote tech, remote meetings, all got compressed into a 12-week cycle. So look at education, for example, look at how we worked prior to this. If you look at domains like marketing, we're not used to having people work remotely and collaborate remotely. So tech has taken a leapfrog. And recently I was in a discussion with PC Quest on Remote 3.0. And I said, look, technology has enabled a lot of changes. From a workforce OS perspective, I think they're still lagging behind. So if you just look at this from a context of what changes is happening around you, and this is going to get more and more faster, it's going to get accelerated even more. So these are the three parameters. These are the three drivers. If you have a three-legged stool, data, devices, digital, and this will continue to happen. Can I forecast what the talent acquisition model will be 5 years from now? Perhaps not, but I'm very sure, and it's very likely that these three drivers will continue to impact the way we hire and the way we manage talent. So what to do? If these are the three drivers, how can we leverage this to our advantage? So first of all, even as talent acquisition professionals, we have to understand how ACE works, how algorithms work, how can you get discovered better for your talent acquisition drives. You cannot no longer say, well, I leave this to my digital team to figure it out. I think you'll have to have some level of awareness about how word of mouth can be enabled, positive word of mouth can be enabled around your brand. Can you create more listening posts? That's the community. Are you more engaged in the community you're part of, not only at the time of acquisition, but overall continuously? Do you do sentiments analysis about your brand, about the domain you're in? Do you capture insights only at the time of exits, or are you always in touch with the community from which you'll be hiring? And what are the impact measurements you're putting together? So all of this in the context of digital. I'm sure we're doing this offline a lot, but are they all relating to how this can handle through digital? I took a tongue-in-cheek comment with listening post called Ayushradha. She's a very popular blogger, and a lot of her content captures the imagination of Gen Z in India. And she does talk about annual offsite and HR practices. So if you're watching this, maybe you want to just, after this, you want to go there and look her up. There's some great content, but idea is to use digital as a way to create your own listening posts in the community from where you'll be in your acquisition. And engagement, so far I've seen employer branding is led by the brand. And I would argue or submit to you that perhaps we should let the employees lead the brand. Employees lead the engagement effort. And we should amplify the employee voice, the positive employee voice. Authenticity is very important. We're checking box all the templates for brand efforts for employer branding. I think we need to get a lot more authentic about what messages we give out. Most of our employer branding efforts tries to tag along on the trending topics and topical issues. I think we need to take a longer view and build around something more specific around the brand you are. So if you look at these three ways to go forward, understand the algorithms, the machines which drive the internet, a deeper understanding of your community from a digital perspective. And third one is engagement, which is once you know what those topics are, who are those influencers in those communities, how do you have an engagement which keeps on building your brand continuously and not from a sporadic campaign perspective. You have to go beyond campaign thinking in terms of our engagement with the community. Having said that, what are some of the notes I have taken from friends I speak with, the companies I'm in touch with, and personally when I've run my own business and I've been part of a large team. I've been part of multinational corporations like Microsoft. I've done my own successful startup, which I've exited. I still would like to believe that these three still continue to be holding true even today. Our culture still attracts and retains. The challenge is how do you create culture when our workforce has been remote? When you transition from being a conventional employee working in an office to working remotely, that transition is somewhat easier. But when you are hiring only online and only onboarding online, and they never get to see people in person, how will that transition? In a recent research, we asked companies and some roles, how will that be post-corona? And more than 50% of them have said they would love to have the hybrid flexibility. So not remote completely, but not in the office. How will that pan out for companies? How will we create water cooler moments, or as we call in India, the chai sutta break moments? Unwritten rules, unwritten rules of a company are always having a higher impact than the written rule books. Employer branding 2.0. I mean, how we go beyond templates. What could be specific to our business which other folks can't see? I mean, there are things like gifting leads, for example. That's some companies are trying that. Employee referral so far have been looked at as sort of a add-on to our talent acquisition models. Some companies are trying to say, what is my cost of employee acquisition? Can I park that as a bonus for my employee referral? Why there should be a discrimination between what I hire through my agency channels and what I pay for my employee referral? Internships as a talent acquisition pipeline. Now, some of this, we're already doing it, but perhaps we can bring a new focus to address the challenges we have in this digital age. And in that context, do we need a different talent acquisition dashboard than perhaps what we had before Corona times? Make no mistake, a lot of changes we saw during Corona will get undone, but there's a deeper impact in the psychology of the talent, in the way digital has disrupted our workplace and workforce, and that will continue to be around. In that context, do we have new KPIs? And I know there's a panel discussion following this, so I would request my fellow speakers to see if some of these thoughts, trends resonate with them, and what would be their ideas to just to make this happen and to make this a reality. So these are some of the thoughts I had put together, and I was given 7 to 8 minutes. I think I'm going beyond my time now. I'll be open to your questions, and that's my email ID, puneet@octaneresearch.in, and I'd like to stay in touch with you if you have follow-up questions. And on the panel, I'll be on the panel. So if you have any questions related to have said, I'll be happy to take them on. You can address them to me or to the moderator, and I'll be happy to address them. Again, thank you for having me here. Thank you, Dave, Daniella from Livehire, and Partho and Shiva from GWFM. And I'm looking forward to a enriching discussion as we roll on to the panel discussion format. Thank you so much. Back to you, Shiva and Partho.
So now we will be quickly rushing into the panel discussion. We have Vishwanadh Raju leading this as the moderator, and let me take a while to talk about Vishwanadh Raju. He's an award-winning human resource professional with expertise in global talent acquisition, with over 19 years of experience in managing talent acquisition in product development and investment banking, captive organizations, he's managed business transformation with talent acquisition strategy, managed global talent branding, candidate experience, and university relations. Currently, he is managing talent acquisition for Dun & Bradstreet India, Tech GCC, actively looking to hire future skills. I'll pass it over to Vishwanath to introduce his panelists and take the conversation forward. Vishwanath.
Thank you, Partho. I would like to thank Shiva, and special thanks to Dev from Livehire. I think interesting discussion that we're going to have. One promise that I can make is that I will put all of them on spot. I will ask questions which will make them uncomfortable to answer. At the same time, an enriching conversation that will come into picture. So that's my promise to all of you. Stay tuned. Have your questions in chat box. I will ensure that all your questions will be answered. If not, if not now, but later in terms of the email and all that stuff. So I have eminent leaders along with me, Aditya Singh. I think his name itself is a great thing about his company. He currently heads talent acquisition for Informatica. I'll ask him to quickly introduce himself, and then we'll go to Savita and Kapil, because I believe that their introduction is better said by them, not by anybody else. So Aditya, over to you.
Thanks, Vishal. I'll make it short and sweet. I am Aditya. I head talent acquisition for Informatica in India. We've been heading it for last 5 years. Been in the talent acquisition industry for about 21 years now. So looking forward towards the discussion. Back to you, Vish.
Thank you. Savita?
All right. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Partho and Shiva, for inviting me to this discussion. It's always very interesting to participate in these webinars. It's just so much of learning that happens, and thank you, Vishwa. So my name is Savita. I work for a company called ThoughtWorks in Bangalore. I live and work in Bangalore. I've been with this company for over 7 years, and I head the talent acquisition function for India. Overall, I've been in this tech IT industry for over 23 years now. And I worked with mostly in the tech hiring space in Oracle, Yahoo, IBM Labs, and a few other smaller consulting companies at the beginning of my career. I'm passionate about advocating tech in HR and D&I in the, when it comes, when I say D&I, it's not just about hiring women or gender diversity, but also looking at underrepresented minorities and other areas. So I think we are in a very exciting phase in the industry right now due to COVID and all the other factors that have come in. But I think every new crisis or a challenge will give us an opportunity to transform ourselves. And yeah, looking forward to this discussion now.
Thanks, Savita. Kapil?
Yeah, thanks, Vishwa, Livehire team and GWFM team for me having here. I head the recruitment and RPO business for Quest Corp. I also manage a global talent hub built in Bangalore in Quest Corp. I come with 22 years of experience majorly in general staffing, IT staffing, and currently RPO business.
So guys, you understand it. It's close to 100+ years of experience which is speaking to you. I'm sure you'll be having a lot to take it from here. So let me start. Maybe I'll start with Aditya. We see this thing called before Christ and after Christ. Now it is before COVID and after COVID. The whole workplace and workforce, everything is changing. The dimensions are changing. And we did not we did not want any other new thing. And now we started talking about Great Resignation. As I think Vicky says that it is coined by a person called Anthony Claus. My question to you is, you had talent for a top tech product company, use digital channels very well, and you are also into cloud and data technologies. According to you, what was, so how did this Great Resignation trigger? And what are your initial reaction when it came to existence? Talk about your own perspective. Thanks.
Thanks, Vish. Yeah, so I think one, we need to reverse back and look at history, right? We were sitting on a cusp. COVID was a cusp. Earlier than this, what is this, 2000? And before that was electricity. So, we are sitting on a cusp. We were sitting on a cusp, and things have rapidly changed since then, right? So, there was a lot of uncertainty. People did not know whether they were going to have jobs, whether we will be able to work from home. So there was, will we be able to get things delivered still, and everything else. So, we lived in an uncertain time. I think so we've come out pretty decently well from an industry standpoint. So there's a lot of people have gone through a lot of uncertainty. What happened during that period of time is people hung on to their jobs, right? Because that became very critical. Then a lot of organizations at that period of time did not give too many hikes because they themselves were looking at their own bottom line, let's be very honest, right? 21, stimulus kicked in. People started looking at things a little more differently. Market opened up. Everybody started hiring because nobody was hiring earlier. So, there was certain need of talent. The ball shifted from employer to candidate. I think that's the biggest shift I feel, which has happened. And people started realizing that, I think we spoke about this. I think people started realizing the realization of seeing what is important to you as an individual and what is not important to you as an individual started kicking in. You realize you can work from home. You realize these small things in life matter. Earlier, your life revolved around your work. I think so now your work revolves around your life. I think that's how people started looking at things more differently. Opportunity for remote work came up. So people started leaving companies. They started looking at flexibility, which is a big option for them. More emphasis on growth, also horizontal growth. You had a lot of people moving industry. That itself was a huge shift, right? People changed from very different industry to another industry altogether. I read this in one of the articles. There are like 5 R's. One is retirement. A lot of people did retire at that period of time. So there was a cusp change. People started reconsidering the way things are left and the way they would want their own lives to matter, right? There was a reshuffle. People started relooking at their own lives, looking at their careers and saying, okay, maybe this career does not matter. A lot of people took up their hobbies as careers in this period of time. So there is a lot of reshuffling, relocation, and work from home. People started saying, hey, do I need to work in this big metro? Why can't I just look at remote work? And if you open all the big sites, the job sites, they have remote as an option now. Employers which are giving opportunities for people to work. And the last but not the least is reluctance. I think so. The reluctance of looking at one, not taking it lying down, I think, as individuals, and also, moving in the direction which you want to move, right? It's like coming close to something, you always read about it. And, when anybody was in 2000, they said, hey, 2000, Y2K, right? Things gonna burst and everything else will happen. And people started having realization. I think this is the time when people started having realization. So these are maybe the softer aspects which I feel which played an important part. And we are looking at the world through a very different lens altogether today. So those are my thoughts, Vish.
Thanks, Aditya. I think you have dissected the resignation to another 5 hours. I'm sure people will like that. So maybe you should write a small blog on that soon. So let me put Kapil on spot. Hi, Kapil. You actually had talent for a large staffing company, and you work with top tech organizations, and these organizations expect you to have a large talent pool. With this Great Resignation coming into picture, what are the key strategies that you are actually adopting, which is helping you to survive in this current market? Thank you.
So Vishwa, Quest Corp is not only the biggest service provider in India today. We are the second largest private sector employer with 437,000 employees. And
Wow.
this space, obviously our responsibility as a talent acquisition get increased, and the client expectation is much higher. Okay. But over the period, our business relationship has evolved as a strategic relationship. Most of our client relationship has moved to next level, and large chunk of our revenue come through MSP, RPO, and managed services program. So the three strategy which we have used around talent acquisition in this period. One is definitely technology. We use a lot of technology. So like obviously we, as a talent acquisition team, we are helping organization to digitally transform. But you also need to see how the digital transformation has impacted the talent acquisition itself. Okay, so today, we use for sourcing, we have one of the best ATS tool, which is MIML driven. For screening, we have the best of the talent tool available, for talent assessment. Okay, then there are boards and IVR for candidate engagement. You have paperless onboarding. So all this together, this take has given a very good experience to the candidate and improved the candidate experience. So technology is at the core. The second strategy what we have used is talent visibility. Okay, what is happening that you might have realized that most of the organization are running behind the same talent, same skill set, right? Same location, same project. So, I mean, it is very important that you have your visibility, you are visible everywhere on every platform. Okay, you might have observed that most of the candidates who are available on the job portal are holding 3 or 4 offers, and they join one company and ditching everyone else. Okay, this happens because you are not visible as an employer anywhere else. Your only source of sourcing is job portals. But what we have done in the last couple of years as a strategy, that we have focused on the source mix and diversity of sourcing. So now today we have the event like this, webinar where you can definitely get some active, passive job seekers. You have hackathon like event, you have virtual job fair. So we have actually, focused on diversity of sourcing, reaching on various social media platform. Okay, so that is talent visibility as the second strategy. The last but very important, which has changed the entire game, is talent doing assessment of talent. Okay, what happened historically? It is a recruiter who are doing the screening of the CV. They use some keywords and they, just put it on the hiring manager. And it is hiring manager job that they need to do, spend enough time to screen every candidate, interview every candidate, and, that is not their core job. They have to run the business. So what we have done that, we have added the element of technical assessment. Okay, it may coding test. There are, we have our own panelists who do the technical assessment, subject matter expert. So most of the sourcing, what we do, or wherever with whomsoever we are working, we provide technically assessed candidate, which reduce the cost of hire, which reduce the time to hire. So these are the 3 major strategy which we have used during this period.
Thanks, Kapil. So let me move to Savita. So the new generation HR model demands us to be a career coach, right? So in this era of great resignation, can you throw some light on what kind of things that you have done in ThoughtWorks? ThoughtWorks also is supposed to be one of the organizations which is supposed to be best in terms of retention of talent, right? So let's talk about that, Savita. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Great question. So as we all have talked about it quite a lot, this whole global pandemic has changed the corporate world when people are again reevaluating their lives, their careers, and in this chaos with this whole job market opening up and this so-called great resignation coming in, the HR is at the centerpiece of this entire whirlpool of the chaos that has been created. So if you look at the last 2 years, the workforce has changed dramatically. One is it is 100% remote. There's a hybrid model of working. There's a multi-generational workforce. There's gig economy, and there's more diversity as well, and not restricted just to gender. So the traditional role of an HR that was to manage labor, so-called labor, has now gone away. So if you look at the very well-known Dave Ulrich model of HR, there are 4 roles that a HR partner has to play, or a leader has to play. One is of a strategic partner. The other is of a change agent. Then the third one is of an admin expert, and fourth one is an employee champion. So with the tech coming in HR and automation happening and the state services model coming in, this admin piece is kind of taken care of very well by most organizations. So from a strategic partner piece, what the HR now needs to do is to enable agility in the organization and be aware of the changing landscape and put themselves in the driver's seat. So it's no longer about just talking to employees or managing exits. It's about how do you engage them? How do you know what a business does? How do you know how does your company make money? What is the long-term plans for your organization? And how do you talk about it to your employees and keep them engaged in it? So there is a very interesting article on reimagining HR by McKinsey, which was published recently, where they talked to about several CHROs across the world. And according to them, digitalization of HR, bringing fluidity in the organization, creating centers of excellences and practice groups within the organizations, according to them, are supposed to be the top priorities what all HR leaders should have. And if I have to talk in the context of ThoughtWorks, one of the important things that we did is that we whether it's in recruiting or in people engagement, we mapped out the journey of all the people involved. For example, in recruiting, we looked at what in a 100% remote world, what is going to be the journey of a candidate? What is the journey of a hiring manager and a recruiter? Similarly, in employee, what is going to happen for the project managers who have to manage projects, for the people who have suddenly have their entire lives disrupted. And then we came up with, how do you adapt and responding to that time, right? When the COVID happened, when the pandemic happened, the response was only to help employees, the health issues and other things that came up with it. And then you figure out how do you help the people have a proper setups in their house and make it conducive and make the environment friendly for people to give their best. And at the same time, come up with tweak your HR policies and whatever, whether it's or health insurance policies or any other policies to enable the people to work and just be an employer or be more humane employer. I think that was a need of the hour during that time. And I think we, in that manner, we really responded pretty well, to what, to the needs that the pandemic came up with.
Thanks, Savita. These are great points. So let me move to Aditya. Some researchers, which can't be quoted because it's just a research done by some people, have said that companies who gave additional flexibilities have lesser issue of great resignation. So first of all, do you think this kind of a thing is correct or not? And what are your suggestions or best practices you have done from Informatica standpoint? Thank you.
Yeah, so flexibility, I feel is the most important part now as we move forward for anybody to everybody, right? So that plays a very important part, and it's a big employer plus point if you have flexibility of work and flexibility of choice. I think so. You need to give the onus back to your own employees, and that's very important. The life has evolved as you talked about, right? And Savi also spoke about it earlier, right? The perks, what was pre-COVID to what it is, it has to change, and a lot of companies have already taken a lot of steps on that, right? To enabling people from an infrastructure, wellness, well-being, a lot of things people have started looking at. Look at even your learning, right? Earlier, if you remember, a lot of companies used to have singular learning and people used to log in, right? Now it's left up to you. You have enough learning assessment tools that the organizations are giving and say, hey, pick what works for you because you know it best, right? From an individual, for you to do learning for which will enable you to do your current work, or maybe from a futuristic standpoint, develop as an individual skill. So flexibility, learning will play a very important part. Emphasis on well-being of individuals, right? We've realized how fragile life can be, at least during the second pandemic. And I think so we've realized how things can be taken away from us, things which we take so lightly. So I think so well-being of your own team members, of your employees, taking care of them, giving their own priorities in life and saying, hey, it's fine, you take off, right? Work can be done with or without you. So, a lot of, I've seen a sea change of, people looking at that, and people are looking to work in organizations where people have more empathy, the right word, from a long-term perspective, right? Work from home is here to stay. I think so. I think you will have flexibility, and then there will be times when you would want to work from home. Work from home pre-COVID was looked at very differently to what it is today. But I think since everybody's gone through it together, we realize that it can be done far better. More meetings have become more fruitful. I think so. People have started discussing to the point discussions in the meetings, and companies have non-meeting days also now. You know, there are days when they know, right? So yeah. So there are the meetings have become far more strategic because everybody respects everybody's time and they're well prepared. I've seen that sea change, right? And communication and transparency is becoming a very important part because I would want to, if I'm joining another company, I would want to know more about the organization, how good or bad they are as an organization. Companies have become far more transparent as we speak. Otherwise, you have enough websites, where you can just log in and see unbiased inputs about organization. So transparency, trust, communication, over communication is also becoming a very important part because sometimes we do get siloed because of us living in a virtual world. So a lot of these things has changed, and a lot of people look at what matters to them plays a now important part when they want to move to another employer as they move forward up. Wish, back to you.
Thanks, Aditya. I think you started off with flexibility and you kind of coined a word called wellness. So Savita, I'll take your inputs here. So employee wellness has taken a center stage, you like it or not. And luckily or unluckily, HR is the one who has to make this happen, right? So most of the CEOs look at HRs to drive any change, which is good thing because we'll have a seat in the table. So what is your thought process on wellness? Actually, you spoke a bit on that when in your previous question, but can you elaborate here? Thank you.
Yeah. Sure, Vish. So employee wellness, well, I do not have direct evidence or something to say that probably that is going to impact people from leaving or stop people from leaving. MetLife had done a survey among thousands of people, the knowledge workers, to figure out what matters to them more in this post-pandemic world. And the remote workers, and more than 50% of them had pointed out that somebody looking at their health holistically, an employer that likes, they're less likely to leave. So that's what people responded. And with all the surveys and other reports that keep coming, with most of the organizations do now, we see that wellness is one of the important top 3 things, priorities, what people put to. And when we say wellness, it is not, earlier this whole wellness was not known to the corporate world. It was restricted to only health insurance, medical insurance, and some benefits. But now people look at it more holistically, which means taking care of your mental health, having proper working hours, whether it's flexi working hours, hybrid work system, and then taking the pressure of what they call, the new word that has come, which I looked at recently, was presentism. That is always being present, right? You're always available simply because you're working remote. Taking the pressure of that definitely helps. That it's people are forced, that your internal chats is, or your Slack or whatever you use, is the status has to be always green, right? You're always available. So taking the pressure off that and realizing that the challenges that this new working model has brought up and being empathetic to it is very important. And of course, how do you, when you say wellness, it also talks about how do you make it as normal as possible for people to work effectively, right? For people to feel valued and respected and give their 100% best and not make it just work just as a means to an end. So simple things like simple rituals, what people do at office, celebrating your colleague's birthday, a farewell, a baby shower, or whatever it is, a promotion. All that has now moved remote. And I think one of the things what HR, or rather the managers, should be coached to is don't do away with such things, right? See how you can make it happen. So with the Zomatos and Swiggies of the world available now, it's very easy to send a simple gift or a cake or something to celebrate somebody's success or a birthday or anything else. So don't do away with those rituals, what people are used to. And then, simple things like having no meeting days, no meeting Fridays. We do that in many of our teams in ThoughtWorks. Or we do meetings where there is no work to be done. We just bring people together and say, you just chat, just water cooler meetings, we call them that. So we are not having water coolers to chat, but then we just get on and just generally chat. And then one of the few interesting things we did also was, on meetings when we ask people to bring the kids online. So we meet everybody's kids, because now there is no bring your kids to office day happening at all. And then there are people who introduce their pets to us. So we get to know so much about their families also, although we are now 100% remote. And these small gestures, I feel, goes a long way. It is not just some process and policy and all those things that matters, but I think these little things help in keeping people. And I feel all this holistically comes under the wellness category. And then I feel it will add value, or rather people will think twice if they want to leave the organization. So yeah, it definitely adds value. You're on mute, Vish.
You brought in a human element in the human resources. I think that's a good one. So Kapil, when you have to hire a lot more people, which means that you have to create a lot more talent pool, right? So you spoke about the 3 things that you're doing. Talk about how do you manage having large talent pool available for you to hire at any given point in time.
Yeah. So unlike, large IT services company, obviously, keeping a bench pool for us is very difficult. Most of the recruitment agencies historically, for them, recruitment is very reactive. We get the requirement and then start our search around it. So, this, COVID has taught us, this reactive hiring is not working out. Okay. And what we did is, we shifted to proactive hiring. What we did is, we have created a COE for certain skill set where demand was high. And, we don't wait for the job description. We actually keep a pool ready for, readily available people. We keep them engaged. And we try to fill the client demand for just in hire in time. So that's one thing. We also started this hire train deploy practice. Okay, because there are certain skill set where talent acquisition is not a problem. The talent itself, availability itself is a problem, and we need to understand that if we don't spend in training and skilling of the people, this gap can't be filled. So we have taken an initiative where we continuously, for certain skill set, we continuously skill the people, and then we have the sales order in pipeline where we deploy these people. So these are the 2, key initiative we have taken during this great resignation era, and which has helped organization in large way on fulfilling their demand on time.
Sure, thank you for that. So let me go to my next question to Aditya. Aditya, one is definitely hiring, right? That's an important thing, but you might also need to look at your leaking bucket from an attrition standpoint. Though that is not our direct roles and responsibility, as a large organization, we actually have to look at that. Maybe talk through your ideas on how do you, as a company, have some interesting way of looking at that. And then did you find some interesting solution that you want to share it with others?
See, attrition, I think, happens because of multiple reasons. People have various reasons. You have voluntary, involuntary, retirement. There are multiple ways of people leaving the organization, right? So, it's proportional to employee motivation, right? It's a result of the employee's motivation towards his work with his supervisor. So people don't leave organizations, they leave managers. I think that's a quote I read a lot of times, and I think everybody agrees with that fact. I think you need to realize and deep dive to understand why are people leaving organizations as we speak, right? A lot of organizations have started doing a lot of surveys, which those are biannual surveys, actually looking at employee wellness, health, and everything else to understand the direction, what the employee is thinking, right? It's very important that you get a pulse of your own employees. So, understanding employees' NPS, job specific factors of why do they want to stay in the organization, the satisfaction surveys to understand all of that. But the biggest part as we speak forward is managers. I think so. How are they trained to reduce attrition is very, very important, right? I think so it's the biggest prerogative there. I think so. They need to have regular connects with the team. Lead with empathy. I think that's the part which still I feel is missing. Be a biggest advocate for your own set of people. Voice their concerns, right? Provide regular feedback. Have your regular connects, and give recognition and awards to people which matter, right? Because we are living in a virtual world, a lot of things are happening around. If you're not able to be in a position of saying, hey, good work done, in office you would have done it very easily, but here something, you're sitting in virtual world, you just can't think in your mind and say, hey, wish did good work. Sometimes you just need that appreciation. It becomes far more important, right? From an organization perspective, you need to optimize your own workforce. See what is important, which are your important assets from an organization perspective. How do we move forward plays an important part from an organization. How cohesive is the organization, the team. Flexibility, which we have been speaking about, plays an important part. From an organization perspective, it needs to be a positive environment where people can work together and come to respect each other, because respect in the line of kind of work which we do is very, very important. In investing in the competency of your own set of people, investing in their own careers from a learning and development plays an important part. The evolution of compensation, a lot of people, the compensation is a big factor, but then you evolved your own compensation structure plays an important part as we move forward, and being more agile, looking at career ladders from a very different angle. Why is it only vertical? It can be horizontal also, right? And also taking into account more social, right? Your community, everything else together. So it's becoming a whole package, right? You can't be siloed into being a me economy or move to a we economy, right? It's more collaboration than everything else. I give you a little more rounded answer, but because there are a lot of parameters which we touch upon, which attrition can happen from, right? So, but you need, as an organization, as simple as that, know the pulse of your own set of employees. Back to you.
That's a great answer. So I remind myself about people leaving managers and not the jobs or the companies. So good input, rounded input rather. So Kapil, my question to you is that you did mention about you guys don't have too much of bench and all that, but you still are able to manage. And global workforce management team is actually hosting this, so we should not have. We should have at least one question regarding to the global workforce management. So talk about some of the workforce management practices that you are adopting, which is actually having some kind of indicate to help on Great Resignation. Thank you.
From Vishwa, good question. Actually, from workforce management point of view, we need to understand one thing, that all of us has some growth trajectory. The demand is huge. There is a lot of opportunity which organization can capitalize. Okay, but we also need to look at the cost of the growth. Okay, if you see the earning calls of most of the companies, for last quarter, the cost of talent acquisition, the talent cost itself has gone up, which has significantly impacted the margins. Okay, so it is very important for our organization from workforce management point of view that we are little cautious about our own the cost to serve actually. So that is where we are trying to get the best talent within the budget, and focusing more on skilling and developing the internal talent. So these are the few things I think WFM need to relook.
That's a great point. I have a lot of questions on the chat bot, but I think chat box, not bot. Using chat bots every often, and that's the verbatim comes into your picture. So let me ask you my last question to Savita. Okay, before that, guys, best question gets reward. So please pour in your questions. Dev and Partho will get back to you on the reward part of it, right? So, so overall, I think you being a research kind of an organization, it's very important for you to ensure that your top talent is intact, right? So talk about slightly on a retention standpoint, at least on the top talent management, and what has worked for your company. If there is any specific thing that you do not want to mention, it's okay, but otherwise generic information which will help all of us, because everyone is going through that challenge in some way or the other. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I think at least my approach to retention, at least of a top talent, is in every organization. I think we should identify the top players, the B players, and the C players. It's very important that everyone does that. The HR does it, or the PA, the project managers, or the leads, whoever it is, does that, right? And they have a differentiated approach on how do you retain each segment of this. Like if your A players are going to leave you, that means that it's going to impact you more. Your BAU is going to get impacted. Your revenues are going to get impacted. Your B players, not so much. Probably it will be for a short period of time, but they can be replaced, and not so much for the C. I think it's okay that you will have people leaving. So every company has about 10 to 15% industry standards of attrition, and that's okay if they're a part of it. So I feel there's no one size fits all kind of an answer. And you should see what are the drivers for this, because when you're the A player, it may not just be about money. It may be also about kind of opportunities they get inside, the kind of other projects that they get to work with. Is their voice heard, and do they have a seat at the table, whether it's in the tech leadership forums or in any other leadership forums. And do they have enough work breadth for their work, not just their regular work, but mentoring opportunities, learning opportunities, or maybe getting coached by an external coaches. So you have to look at each of the person differently, and then kind of have a different approach for each of the segment. And I think that is what will help in go a long way in retention. And overall, of course, having a good culture, that's like a catch-all phrase. Everyone talks about it. But what I'm saying is, when you say good culture, what does it mean? Every organization, it means something else. So how do you build that? How do you enable that? And how do you live that culture, right, from top down, right? How do you do that? For example, one of the things in ThoughtWorks, what we have is, it's a very consensus-driven organization. There is no CEO who sits on top and just sends you an email and says, okay, I'm the CEO, I'm saying this, so please do this. It never works like that. It's always, people discuss and people talk and people have a voice at the table. The whole having a flat structure, right, of flat organization. Whenever we say flat organization, it means different to different things. But for us, it was even when we were going to office, in the physical manifestation, how it is to manifest physically was, we used to sit around tables and work. We don't work nobody has a cabin. You have your meeting rooms, but nobody sits in a cabin and locks them away. And everyone sits around a table. So you have a fresher sitting next to you. You may have your most senior person in the team sitting next to you, and that kind of has very good. It breaks down silos. It enables collaboration, and it gives everyone a voice at the table. So, that is the thing that, which helps in building your culture and living what you really mean, what you put on a website, what do you really live it. That is very important, I feel, for the retention.
Absolutely. I think what I liked is what are you as a company, then what are you painting as a picture? I think that's a good statement you made. Thank you very much. So I think we're kind of done with my questions, and I have good questions on the chat. In fact, the question and answer. So we'll pick up one of Bhavna. I think this is pointed towards Kapil, but anyone can answer. I think Aditya also want to answer. How do you ensure you keep candidates engaged while you're not actively hiring and building a talent pool for future hiring needs? I think this question every hiring leader has. Maybe anyone wants to answer.
I'll go ahead. So while I know it's addressed to Kapil, it's something relevant to all of us. We've been there and we are in the similar situation. I think it's very important that you keep a consistent awareness about your brand and organization in the market, right? And the biggest example is all of us in this webinar, right? So as simple as that. So one is that you need to have consistently your brand coming present in all the webinars, all the sessions, which keeps the candidates aware of what's there, because the constant presence helps recall in the individual. Meetups play a very important part. You need to understand which are the curated meetups, which is relevant to you as an organization, sponsor them, working with them. There are enough coding sites which you can look at from an advertisement perspective, looking at consistent connect. Curated connects on specifically to particular skills which you hire, you need to have those, very important. Employee advocacy plays an important part where employees speak about their own brand on social media and other places plays an important part, because that's an authentic part which people can correlate to far more easily. Codathons, hackathons, irrespective of whether you're actively, extensively hiring or not, but then you build a connect with a larger community, with the coding community, because your positions can come anytime. But then it's the experience which you give those people and they carry it to another friend, plays an important part. And last but not the least is, you're going through your alumni and other places where you consistently keep a brand presence important. So recruiting is not only about, current closing, opening, and everything else. It's far more than that. It's about what you build as a brand across, what's your workforce planning, how do you look at even attrition control to some extent, because it talks about the quality to some extent, what you are getting in as an organization. So all of these parts, which I feel are important.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think plus 100 to what Aditya said, put it very well.
Yeah. So my second question is, I think from Nandita. I think Nandita, thank you very much for a good question. Selection process has always been evolving, right? So I see that year and a half back, what was the selection process? It completely changed today. So any thoughts on how interview and selection process can evolve or change in the current times?
Yeah, can I take that? Yeah.
Please,
yeah,
thank you.
Selection process. Yeah, that's a great question. So what I'm saying is, in the selection process, it should be a more candidate-centric selection process. Earlier, it was, people always asked you questions for which they knew the answers and they want to find out whether the candidate knows. Now it is more of a candidate process where it's more of a discussion where you have where you respect the candidate's time for investing in your company. And remember that every candidate who comes in is a brand ambassador, whether the outcome is positive or negative. And so keeping that candidate as a centerpiece of your selection process is very important, and do what works for them. In today's world, the candidates are in demand. Everybody is looking for the same kind of talent. So how do you make the process simple, but at the same time, you will be able to measure what is right, what is important for your organization, for the particular requirement. And if you're a tech company, I think having something which shows your hands-on skills is very important. Show me what you know is very important. That's a thing what we follow here in ThoughtWorks as well. That's why we have a coding test, and then we do a technical interview, and then we do the rest of the process. So tailoring that and using a lot of tech, right, in your selection process is very important. Having a digital online process with making it easy for the candidates to apply to the jobs or reach around the HR teams or your recruitment team, and making it transparent, giving feedback to candidates. I think those are some of the small things that people miss out when they start hiring. We should always remember that a candidate may come back to you after some time. We call them silver medalist candidates, people who almost made it but did not get through. So, if you have a good engagement process with them, giving timely feedback and being transparent about why you hired them or why you're not hiring them, that enables them to work on their feedback and come back to us after 6 or 8 months or whatever cooling period you have. So in a nutshell, I think having a candidate-centric selection process is important, and listing down the attributes and the competencies needed for each of your roles and grades, and not having a very generic process, and defining it. And of course, training, it goes without saying that you have to train your hiring managers and your panelists on how to do interviews. Those are some of the important things to consider.
So being the moderator, I think there is, okay, go ahead, Kapil, sorry.
Vishwa, just to add what Savita said, that, technical assessment is very critical to avoid unconscious bias. I also feel that, more than that, probably we need to hire a candidate based on their potential versus experience. Okay. I think right now we always want 100% fit candidate, and that is not possible every time. We should also look at the potential of the candidate when we are hiring.
Yeah.
Second thing, we also need to give more importance to skill over education. Okay, so if just wanted to add these two more points what Savita said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
In
So,
ThoughtWorks, we call our interview process as joy of interviewing. If anyone wants to know more about it, I'll be happy to talk later. Now I know we are out of time.
yeah. One thing that you've done is good marketing to the ThoughtWorks. So thank you very much for that. But anyway,
my job, Vishwa.
one of the things that you don't want a moderator to tell you is if we are on time or we are ahead of the time. So I think I would like to thank Dave for this opportunity, for making us to come alive, and then a great discussion. One thing that I can definitely share is that the kind of research articles are the names of the articles which came in. So all of these inputs that came to you are not a general verbatim, to be very honest. Right? They actually spoke about certain context to the information that's already there on the internet. So that is something that I'm very, very happy about. Kapil, I like the 3 points that you mentioned. Savita, that you mentioned on the Dave Ulrich method, I think I got refreshed myself. I kind of almost forgot about it. Aditya, the 5-hour thing that you mentioned, you're awesome. So I think with that, I will have Dave to kind of take over and then lead us from here. Thank you. Or maybe Partho.
Yeah. Everybody is thanking everybody here. Okay. So, but even I want an opportunity to do that. Very grateful to the entire panel. Very grateful to my keynote speaker. And of course, extremely grateful to a very close friend, Dave, for sticking together. And today, we've been able to host this because of the support that we got from Livehire. Over to Dave.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Partho and Vishwa. Thank you so much. So I'm Dave Ghosh. I manage the global alliances and channel sales at Livehire. And, I've always been in software sales. So to hear practitioners, how that is applied and how technology is applied effectively, it's such a learning experience and amazing inputs, what I just heard out here. Just to give you a little bit about Livehire, I promise Partho I'll keep less than a minute in terms of the sales pitch over here. The company is headquartered out of Australia. We are publicly traded in Australia. We do have customers and operations across APAC and North America. Right from mid-market to global organizations like Procter & Gamble and Vodafone and whatnot. And we also work very closely, and Kapil might be tickled to hear this, with a lot of the leading MSPs and RPOs like Alexander Mann or Manpower or TAFN, Ian Martin Group. They all use Livehire as a platform, to build talent communities or pools, for their customers. And here's the bizarre thing that, Kapil, a lot of the things that you said is exactly what the feature set for Livehire is, right? What we deliver. Obviously, we are a technology company. And we deliver technology to help practitioners like you to really make a life much easier. And I think what we are seeing, and of course me as a salesperson, and I meet a lot of companies globally, what we have seen starting with the COVID is this whole paradigm shift of where people are not looking for a job anymore. They're not looking for a career anymore. They're looking for a calling, right? I mean, that has really become the key thing out here. The exciting part is that the Livehire started almost more than a decade back, was always focused on the candidate experience, right? I mean, from employer branding to how to attract talent, how to engage with the talent, how to build proactively talent communities or talent pools, and then of course do the matching all the way up to the onboarding, which all has become very important. I mean, this is such a critical path that is already happening in the market. And this is what LiveHire really delivers, what we call the first look to hire, platform, with a lot of the partner ecosystem, doing a lot of the background checks or the technical assessment, all different kind of assessments coming into it. So very interesting times, and also excited to announce that we're also going to be make this platform available for the India market, starting in July. But it was amazing insights and thoughts from all the practitioners and the panelists and on the webinar today. So really appreciate you kind of jumping in, and I'm always learning, and I'm a sales guy, obviously, right? So, and you are the actual hands-on person who delivers to the market. So thank you so much, and Partho and Dr. Shiva and Global Workforce Management, thank you so much for the opportunity to let us kind of be a part of this webinar.
Thank you.
Thanks about everyone. And, Dave, for your information, the people you see here, I mean, they've been the part and parcel of all our knowledge sessions, and extremely, committed to GWFM as an organization, and our growth, a lot of it, we ascribe to the contribution of these people.
Absolutely. So, and I learned a lot today. Trust me. I mean, I learned a lot. Very good insight.
Anything from you?
Thanks so much, Dave, supporting GWFM to host this event. But I learned what LiveHire does in this process, and great insights from the fellow TA leaders. And I have a lot of takeaways from this. I'm sure that the audience would have also got good learnings and takeaways in this. Thank you so much, Dave, Kapil, Savita, Vishwa, and then Hadi. Great insights from all of you. Thank you so much for taking your time out. Really privileged to have you. And we have really created a great knowledge sharing. In fact, we have live in Facebook, the video which is going to be recorded and going to be shared to all the members around. Not only the live what we're going to have, post the event also we're going to have a lot of engagements around this. Looking forward to connecting with all the audience who have joined in and who have registered, who could not join in. This message will go to entire WFM community, what we have, and also a lot of talent leaders around the world.